Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Arkenback, a senior lecturer at the University of Gothenburg and a postdoctoral researcher in applied IT focusing on workplace learning. Today, I'll discuss some reasons why people misinterpret visuals. As a secondary teacher of science, math, art, drama and Swedish, I always relied on visual representations to explore and explain scientific and social phenomena. With the advent of digitalization and digital technologies, I challenged myself to incorporate these new technologies for creating visual models. For example, I prefer sketching and drawing models when analyzing research data over organizing text in columns. However, in the academic context, my visual models often seem to lead to misinterpretations and critical discussions about their relevance. The significance of visuals is rapidly increasing in STEM education, vocational education, workplace learning, and in work. This has led to questions such as, is visual literacy an innate ability or can it be learned? Do some people excel at understanding visuals while others are better at text? Does being a text person make it harder to learn statistics and spatial geometry? Through my research, I've discovered that many teachers and presenters assume the visual aids like diagrams require no further explanation and use phrases such as you can see. Additionally, many participants and students remain quiet and don't ask for clarification on the visuals. I've also come across situations where the presenter is unable to explain a diagram when asked, claiming that they did not create the visual model themselves. This raises concerns about the skills needed to effectively combine visual representations and text. Visual literacy is crucial and it involves the skills of reading, drawing, constructing and interpreting visual models. It is a set of abilities that allows an individual to effectively locate, analyze, assess, use and produce images and visual media. Developing visual literacy skills is crucial for students to critically consume media in the digital knowledge society. Visual literacy is crucial in science and math, where interpreting scientific graphics require different skills than analyzing images in newspapers. It requires draw-to-learn skills, which are rarely taught outside of art. Visual literacy in retail work may involve bringing analog and digital visual data models into work routines, methods, customer interactions, and organizational goals. Cognition refers to the human brain's mental processes involved in learning, thinking, and information processing. Our knowledge about the development of numerical and mathematical cognition is heavily influenced by a theoretical framework that suggests humans are born with an innate sense of number, also known as number sense. This natural sense is thought to form the basis for developing numerical and mathematical abilities. There are two types of cognitive processes that play different roles in learning mathematics: executive functions and visuospatial functions. Visuospatial functions processing may explain the relationship between basic numerical skills and advanced math achievement, as suggested by Sella. For example, carrying and borrowing operations between columns require spatial working memory. Visuospatial functions or visuospatial abilities involve our ability to understand visual and spatial relationships between objects. These abilities help us navigate our environment by perceiving and processing information about shapes, distances, and object locations. They rely on several brain regions and are critical in helping us make sense of the world around us. Research has shown that people with strong visuospatial abilities tend to excel at problem solving, spatial reasoning, and visualizing complex concepts. Visuospatial thinking refers to the ability to visualize shapes and arrangements of objects in space, maintain a mental map of our location, and think with spatial representations of non-spatial entities. It varies among individuals and involves both analogical mental imagery and analytical processes. Orientation and navigation in large-scale spaces rely on visual and other sensory information. We often use spatial representations to think and reason about objects. For instance, we use diagrams, maps, and graphs to use vision to think. In preschool, children are introduced to simple maps that help them understand and interpret their world. These maps have a grid overlaying the image to facilitate the location and orientation of places and objects. However, research has shown that for some individuals, the physical structure of the grid becomes more prominent than the actual information it represents, which becomes the background. Graphical displays enhance visuospatial thinking by storing information externally, indexing information spatially, and allowing cognitive processes to be offloaded onto automatic perceptual and visual routines. However, a student's understanding of these displays can be impacted by factors such as their knowledge of statistics, correlation, achievement motivation, GPA, and visuospatial abilities. If having visuospatial difficulties, the same visual model may be perceived in this way. The Gestalt principles of perceptual organization explain how individuals naturally organize visual information into meaningful patterns and structures. This can be influenced by how the elements of displays are grouped and how well they are suited for their task at hand. Tversky argues that there are three natural connections between graphic forms and their meanings. For instance, lines represent connections, circles indicate cyclic processes, and the horizontal dimension is mapped to time. The art of representing three-dimensional objects on two-dimensional plane is called linear perspective. The simplest form of linear perspective is called the one-point perspective, also known as the central perspective. The concept of central perspective was first introduced by Brunelleschi, a renowned Florentine architect who lived from 1377 to 1446. The rules of central perspective can be summarized as follows. 1. The horizon line should always be a straight line. 2. Straight lines in space should appear straight in the image. 3. Sets of parallel lines converge at a vanishing point. 4. Lines that are parallel to the picture plane should appear parallel in the image. Nowadays, linear perspective employs 1, 2, or 3 vanishing points to achieve the desired outcome. The linear perspective is used in books, educational materials, as well as spatial geometry to depict three-dimensional objects. However, it is not an inherent or natural way of perceiving visual information. It's a learned and adopted way of representing space and depth in artistic or visual communication. In order to comprehend a 2D image that represents a 3D reality, it is crucial to understand the image conventions utilized by the creator. According to Panofsky and Franker, the central perspective is a cultural convention that must be learned through education or other means. During my time teaching adult medication math classes, I came to understand the significance of visuospatial thinking. Some second language learners with limited educational background struggle with math and made little progress. When I asked them to describe the visual representations of a square and cube, I realized they did not perceive any difference between the two. After 10 weeks of training in perspective drawing, the students were able to distinguish between 2D and 3D objects with ease. However, neither the students nor my colleagues made the connection between these new skills and mathematics learning. Visuospatial difficulties can manifest in various ways among students, such as ignoring diagrams while reading textbooks, difficulty interpreting schedules, tables and charts, and taking a long time to retrieve information from visual models. Other signs include misplaced numbers and text in tables, schedules and graphs, and neglecting the use of grid lines while drawing objects, resulting in wrong or less precise answers. Teachers may provide feedback such as "be more precise next time" or "you've been careless here." But it is important to also consider the visual representation of the math content. Neglecting visuospatial representations in the feedback may contribute to the development of math difficulties. The main takeaways are as follows. Visuospatial abilities and thinking are not innate traits. They are personal, vary among individuals, and can be significantly improved through dedicated training and practice. By developing these skills, individuals can improve their spatial reasoning and problem-solving abilities. It's essential to incorporate visual literacy into classroom, so the students can develop their visuospatial abilities. Ensure that visuospatial displays are effective and accessible for all individuals. Avoid saying "as you can see" when referring to visuals. Ask students what they see to guide reasoning and problem solving. Thank you for listening.